Title: The Dumbest Cultivator in the Nine Heavens. Chapter 1: Waste Root. For 18 years, Lian had been called the most useless disciple in Azure Cloud sect. This was not, as some assumed, a wild exaggeration made by jealous rivals. It was, in fact, a carefully considered and widely agreed-upon conclusion, reached after years of exhaustive testing, documentation, and on at least one occasion a formal sect meeting. The nickname had many contributing causes. There was the rice cooker incident, in which Lian had attempted to cultivate using a rice cooker instead of a meditation mat. "It's got a lid," he explained to anyone who asked, and he asked people to ask him because he was quite proud of the theory. Lids trap energy. Everyone knows this. No one, in fact, knew this. It was not written in any scripture, taught by any master, or hinted at in any ancient text buried beneath the sect's library. Lian had simply decided it was true one afternoon while watching rice steam, and had never once revisited the decision. Unfortunately, he said it with such unwavering confidence that 3 younger disciples had already ruined perfectly good rice cookers trying to break through to the second realm, and one had very nearly set his dormitory on fire attempting to seal the lid with intent. Then there was the toilet incident, which had earned him the nickname Waste Root, a title the sect considered clever, though Lian personally felt it lacked nuance. In his defense, which he offered often and to increasingly uninterested audiences, it had been a very spiritual toilet. It had excellent feng shui. The pipes hummed at a frequency he was certain resonated with the heavenly Tao. No one else agreed, but no one else had tried it either, so as far as Lian was concerned, the debate remained scientifically open. He had 0 spiritual roots, confirmed, tested, retested, and eventually stamped in triplicate by the sect's registrar, who had begun keeping a separate folder just for Lian's repeated testing requests. He had 0 talent, a fact so thoroughly established that the sect used his cultivation attempts as a teaching example for what not to do. And he had 0 motivation, which, to be fair, was less a diagnosis and more a lifestyle. His only actual skill, if it could be called that, was complaining. He complained about the weather, the food, the training schedule, the unfairness of spiritual roots being assigned at birth rather than earned through hard work and good posture, and most consistently, about the fact that everyone kept calling him Waste Root instead of his actual name. This skill, however, turned out to be a lost martial art. The elders called it the endless lament, a technique so ancient it predated the sect itself, and were far too embarrassed to admit to Lian that they had simply made the name up on the spot to avoid explaining that he didn't actually have a martial art at all. He just complained really, really well. It was on an unremarkable Tuesday, gray sky, mild wind, turnip garden looking especially turnipy, while Lian was failing to meditate for the 412th consecutive time, that an old man fell out of the sky and landed directly on the sect's turnip garden with a sound like a sack of very old flour. Lian, who had been meditating with his eyes closed and one hand resting suspiciously close to the rice cooker, opened his eyes at the crash and blinked at the crater now steaming gently among the vegetables. "Child," the old man wheezed, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, robe smoking faintly at the edges, beard singed in 3 distinct places. "You are the chosen one." Lian leaned in, genuinely excited for the first time in recorded sect history. "Chosen for what?" The old man's lips parted. His eyes shone with the weight of 10,000 years of secrets, prophecies, and possibly several unresolved family disputes. He drew in a breath so dramatic that a nearby crow paused mid-flight out of respect. "You are chosen to—" He did not finish the sentence, because at that exact moment, a chicken bone, origin unknown, possibly from whatever heavenly banquet he had apparently just fallen out of, lodged itself firmly in his throat, and he began to choke with all the dignity of a man who had survived 9 celestial tribulations only to be defeated by poultry. Lian, to his credit, did attempt to help. He patted the old man's back several times, with roughly the same technique he used on stubborn jars of pickled radish, which is to say, enthusiastically, but without any actual understanding of what he was doing. It did not work. The old man's eyes rolled back. His body went still. The garden fell silent, save for the wind and the faint, mocking hum of the rice cooker which Lian had never actually turned off. Lian stared at the body for a long moment, hand still hovering awkwardly over the old man's back. "Chosen for what?" he repeated, quieter this time to absolutely no one. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster crowed, entirely unbothered by the mystical tragedy that had just unfolded among the turnips. Chapter 2. The system has arrived, terms and conditions apply. That night, unable to sleep, partly from the shock of watching a mysterious elder die on a root vegetable, and partly because he'd eaten 3 bowls of turnip stew out of respect, which had been a mistake, Lian lay staring at the ceiling of his dormitory, replaying the old man's final words over and over. "You are the chosen one." Chosen for laundry duty, probably, he thought bitterly. That's usually how his luck went. It was at that exact moment, somewhere between resentment and heartburn, that a voice awoke inside his dantian. "Greetings, host," it intoned, deep and resonant, layered with the gravity of a voice that had clearly practiced sounding important. "I am the system. I have slumbered for 10,000 years, awaiting a worthy vessel." Lian sat bolt upright in bed, so fast he nearly headbutted the ceiling beam. "A system? Like a cultivation system? The kind that turns useless nobodies into terrifying overlords who casually curb-stomp entire sects by Chapter 12. "Something like that, yes," said the system, in a tone that suggested it had not expected him to know the genre conventions quite so well. "But first, before we begin your cultivation journey, would you like to hear about our Platinum Protection Package?" Lian blinked. "My what?" "For a small introductory fee of 1,000 spirit stones per month, I can offer extended dantian warranty coverage, priority breakthrough support, a complimentary tribulation umbrella, and access to our loyalty rewards program, in which every 10 breakthroughs earns you a free minor pill." "In what?" "Also," the system continued, entirely unbothered, "congratulations. You may already be a winner of the Grand Sect Lottery. Please respond within 7 days to claim your prize. Failure to respond will result in forfeiture and possible spam from 300 other systems currently competing for your dantian's attention." Lian rubbed his temples with both hands, a headache blooming somewhere behind his eyes that had nothing to do with cultivation and everything to do with customer service. "I got the scam system. Of course I got the scam system. Every other protagonist gets the ancient dragon spirit or the 10,000-year sword intent, and I get telemarketing." "Rude," said the system, sounding genuinely wounded, which was impressive for a disembodied cosmic algorithm. "Anyway, moving on from the promotional material, your bloodline has been detected." Lian perked up instantly, headache momentarily forgotten. He sat up straighter, eyes wide with the particular hope of a man who had spent 18 years being told he had nothing, finally being told he might have something. "A bloodline? Which one? The Azure Dragon, the Phoenix of Rebirth, the Nine-Tailed Void Fox? Please tell me it's at least the Nine-Tailed Void Fox. I've always thought I had the cheekbones for it." "The bloodline of the Eternal Procrastinator," the system announced, with what could only be described as pride, "granting the host the sacred, ancient power to postpone death indefinitely by simply not doing anything about it whatsoever." There was a long silence in the dormitory. Somewhere outside, a cricket chirped, unimpressed. "That's not a power," Lian said flatly. "That's just a personality trait I already had. I've been doing that since I was 6. My mother used to yell about it." "Synergy," said the system. "That's not synergy, that's just—" "I said synergy," the system repeated, with the immovable confidence of a customer service representative reading from a script it fundamentally did not understand. "And I will not be taking further questions on the matter at this time. Please rate your onboarding experience 1 to 5 stars." Lian flopped back onto his pillow, staring at the ceiling, wondering, not for the first time, and certainly not for the last, whether the old man's turnip garden death had perhaps been less a tragedy and more a warning. Chapter 3. The mysterious ring, terms and conditions still apply. The next morning, after a fitful sleep interrupted twice more by the system attempting to sell him bundle deals he neither understood nor consented to, Lian trudged back out to the turnip garden to pay his respects to the dead old man, and more practically, to see if the body had anything useful on it. He reasoned this was not grave robbery so much as inheritance, given the man had personally called him the chosen one moments before expiring. The old man's body lay exactly where it had fallen, robes still faintly smoking, 3 turnips crushed beneath him like tiny vegetable martyrs. On his withered right hand was a ring, plain, unassuming, the kind of ring you'd expect to find in a drawer rather than on the finger of a celestial being who apparently fell out of the sky on a Tuesday. Lian knelt down, hesitated for exactly as long as decorum required, and then slid the ring off the old man's finger with the reverence of someone claiming a legendary artifact of unimaginable power. He slid it onto his own hand, half expecting a legendary sword to materialize or a forbidden technique to burn itself into his memory, or at the very least, given how the morning had gone, a decent breakfast. Instead, a small holographic scroll unfurled in front of him, glowing faintly blue, projecting elegant cursive script directly into the air. Congratulations. You have received 10% off your next reincarnation, it read cheerfully. Some restrictions apply. Offer void in the 9 hells, the boundless void, and select provinces of the mortal realm currently under celestial embargo. Cannot be combined with other cosmic offers, karmic discounts, or ancestor blessings. See fine print for details. Fine print not available. I hate this, Lian said to the turnip garden, to the corpse, to the universe in general. I genuinely hate this. I got a coupon instead of a legendary inheritance. Still, and this was the one small silver lining he could find. A ring was a ring, and the sect's disciples had no way of knowing it was, in practical terms, a Cultivation World gift card with an expiration date. To their eyes, an old man had fallen from the heavens, declared Lian the chosen one, and left behind a mysterious ring. That was the story. That was the only story they needed. So when Zhao Feng, the arrogant third young master of the sect, famous throughout Azure Cloud for his silk robes, his perfectly oiled topknot, and his complete and total inability to lose gracefully at anything, ever swaggered up to challenge him that afternoon, flanked by no fewer than 6 disciples whose sole purpose seemed to be gasping on cue, Lian simply raised the ring like it was a weapon of unimaginable legend. You dare wear a sect elder's ring, waste root? Zhao Feng shrieked, veins bulging in his very expensive forehead, one hand dramatically clutching the hilt of a sword he had never once used in actual combat. Do you know who I am? No, Lian said honestly, tilting his head with the sincerity of a man asking directions. And judging by how you're acting right now, I don't think you do either. The crowd gasped. Somewhere, entirely without prompting, a wind chime rang out with dramatic timing so perfect that several disciples later swore it had been arranged by fate itself, though it had actually just been knocked loose by a passing pigeon. Zhao Feng's face turned 7 distinct shades of purple, cycling through the color wheel like a particularly furious sunset. I am the future sect leader. I have trained for 15 years. I have slapped the faces of 100 rivals, humiliated countless upstarts, and my name alone strikes fear into. Cool story, said Lian, examining his fingernails with theatrical boredom he did not actually feel, since his heart was currently hammering against his ribs like a trapped rabbit. I've been awake for 20 minutes and I already have a warranty on my soul. What have you got besides an incredible amount of hair oil? Zhao Feng, unable to process an insult so calmly delivered, let out a strangled roar and lunged. Lian, who had never once successfully performed a technique in 18 years of trying, who could not summon chi, channel intent, or so much as levitate a single leaf, panicked in the purest, most instinctive way a human being can panic, and in doing so accidentally sneezed a burst of raw, unrefined chi directly into Zhao Feng's face. The sneeze itself was unremarkable. Lian had, after all, eaten 3 bowls of turnip stew the night before, and turnips had never agreed with his sinuses. But the chi behind it, 18 years of stagnant, unused, bottled-up spiritual energy with absolutely nowhere else to go, erupted forward like a cork finally freed from a very old, very shaken bottle. Zhao Feng flew backward through 4 training dummies, a bamboo fence, a decorative koi pond, and for reasons the sect historians would later argue about for decades in increasingly heated academic journals, the very same turnip garden that had claimed the mysterious elder's life not 24 hours earlier. The crowd went utterly, completely silent. Then someone, somewhere near the back, whispered, with the reverence of a man witnessing a miracle. Waste root broke through. Technically true, the system offered helpfully, entirely unhelpful in tone. Also, would you like to leave a 5-star review of this encounter? Positive reviews may unlock the Bronze Tier Rewards program. Lian, still trembling from the recoil of his own sneeze, looked down at his hands as if they belonged to a stranger, and said nothing at all. Chapter 4, as everyone already knows. That evening, Elder Xuan gathered the disciples of Azure Cloud sect for what he insisted, with great solemnity, was urgent and necessary guidance. Though every disciple present privately suspected, correctly, that it was really just an excuse for the old man to talk uninterrupted at people who had no way of leaving. The disciples sat in neat rows in the main courtyard, torches flickering, the recent turnip garden catastrophe still very much the topic of hushed conversation. Lian sat near the back, still faintly smelling of turnips and adrenaline, trying very hard to look like a man who had not just accidentally launched the third young master through a koi pond via nasal discharge. As everyone here already knows, Elder Xuan began, addressing an audience of disciples who had, in some cases, lived at this very sect for over a decade, and had heard this exact speech no fewer than 40 times. Cultivation has 12 major realms, 4 hidden sub-realms, 6 optional side quests available only during the Autumn Cultivation Festival, and 1 part-time job opening in the kitchens during the slow season, for which applications are currently being accepted. Lian, emboldened by recent events, and a faint sense that he had earned the right to ask questions now, raised his hand. Elder, if we already know this, since you did just say that we already know this, then why are you? Silence, Elder Xuan thundered, in the specific tone of a man who had not prepared a follow-up answer and had no intention of improvising one. As I was saying, the realms in ascending order of power are as follows: mortal, apprentice, expert, grandmaster, ancestor, sovereign, and for reasons lost to history, buried in scrolls too ancient and fragile to consult, and which absolutely no one is permitted to question, realm 6.5. That's not a real number, someone near the front muttered, not quietly enough. It is now, Elder Xuan snapped, jade tablet trembling in his grip, and nobody argued further, mostly out of fear and partly out of the mild embarrassment of watching an old man defend a fake number with the passion of a general defending a border fortress. Lian, still riding the reckless confidence of a man who had recently sneezed a bully into a fish pond, raised his hand a second time. So, which realm am I in, then, since I broke through and everything? Elder Xuan's eye twitched. He pulled out an ancient jade tablet, blew a thin layer of dust from its surface with theatrical ceremony, squinted at it from 3 different angles, tapped it twice against his palm like a man trying to fix a broken clock, held it up to the torchlight, muttered something about needing new glasses, and finally, after a silence so long several disciples began quietly praying, announced, "A realm 6.75. A ripple of confusion moved through the courtyard. That's not even one of the realms you just listed 30 seconds ago, Lian pointed out, not unreasonably. It is now, Elder Xuan repeated, louder this time, as if volume alone could retroactively make it true. And then he turned sharply on his heel and stormed off into the night before anyone could stop him, robes billowing with the wounded dignity of a man who had just invented an entire tier of cosmic power on the spot, rather than admit he had no idea what had happened to waste Root's spiritual roots. The system, silent throughout the entire spectacle, chose this exact moment to chime in privately, its voice echoing smugly inside Lian's skull. Host, I have detected a rare and noteworthy event, an elder inventing an entirely new cultivation realm on the spot rather than admit he does not understand you. Achievement unlocked. Plot convenience. Reward, absolutely nothing. Please rate your experience 1 to 5 stars, as your feedback helps other hosts. Lian sighed a long, weary, turnip-scented sigh, and looked down at the ring on his finger, still faintly humming with expired coupon energy. He thought about his ridiculous procrastinator's bloodline, his brand-new and thoroughly unearned reputation as a terrifying sneeze-based combatant, and the fact that somewhere out there, an entire sect now believed he had broken through to a cultivation realm that did not, until roughly 4 minutes ago, exist. He looked up at the stars, exhaled, and muttered the only sensible thing left to say. It chosen for what? Somewhere above him the heavens offered no answer. They rarely did. End of Volume 1, to be continued in The Dumbest Cultivator, Tribulation. Don't worry, it will be more awkward.